A fire broke out Wednesday on the USS New Orleans warship off the coast of Okinawa, Japan, leaving 2 sailors with minor injuries. According to Associated Press, the fire on the amphibious transport dock ship has been extinguished and its cause is under investigation, the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet said in a statement. The fire on the 684-foot-long vessel lasted almost 12 hours, igniting as the USS New Orleans was in water near White Beach Naval Facility in Okinawa. Sailors on the ship got help fighting the fire from the crew of the USS San Diego, another warships that transports troops and aircraft, as well as the Japanese Coast Guard and military. The Navy said its crew will stay aboard the ship. The USS New Orleans, which was commissioned in 2007, can hold up to 800 people. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte on Monday described a U.S. commitment to help allies with security guarantees for Ukraine following any deal with Russia to end the war as a breakthrough, but said details of the support still needed to be defined. According to Associated Press, U.S. President Donald Trump hosted his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelenski and top European leaders in the Oval Office on Monday to energize months of stalled U.S.-led efforts to halt Russia's 3.5-year-old war. With Europeans looking to set up a force that could backstop any peace agreement in Ukraine, Trump suggested that Russian President Vladimir Putin would be open to accepting security guarantees. His special envoy, Steve Witkoff, said Sunday that Moscow was open to accepting NATO-style protections for Ukraine. Trump has ruled out allowing Ukraine to join NATO, which would extend the military alliance's protection to the besieged country. He did, however, express support for security guarantees for Ukraine, though details remain vague. In an interview with Fox News host Laura Ingraham, Rutte said U.S. and European leaders were discussing Article 5 kind of security guarantees for Ukraine. Article 5 of the NATO treaty says an attack on one member nation is an attack on all members, the heart of the Transatlantic Defense Compact. Details around U.S. involvement in the security guarantees for Ukraine will be discussed over the coming days, Rutte added. The possibility of U.S. troops in Ukraine was not discussed Monday, he said.
First, we need to have full clarity collectively, US, the Europeans and the others in this coalition of the willing, on what security guarantees will mean. And again, it is really a breakthrough that the US will get involved. And then again, the level of involvement will now be discussed. What we are discussing here is not NATO membership. What we are discussing here is Article 5 type of security guarantees for Ukraine, and what they exactly will entail will now be more specifically discussed. What that exactly will mean, the US involvement, will be discussed over the coming days. Anyway, we have to discuss more details of these security guarantees, but clearly for Ukraine to consider what to do next when it comes to territory, it is important to also know what the situation will be with the security guarantees to prevent Vladimir Putin from ever trying again to invade parts of Ukraine.
Troops on the ground, is that a possibility?
We have not discussed that at all today, so that will be part of the discussions which will now start. We will try to bring them to a next stage of understanding over the coming days. So today, the conversation was a conversation among friends, among close allies who respect each other, who like each other, who know each other very well, discussing how we can bring this terrible war to an end. And this is a goal we all have in common. And without President Trump, this deadlock with Putin would not have been broken. He was the only one who could do that, starting in February.
Russia's domestic fuel market has collapsed into crisis. After a series of drone strikes on oil refineries, wholesale gasoline prices reached previously unseen levels. Russian media reported this. According to the St. Petersburg Commodity and Raw Materials Exchange, on Monday, a ton of AI-92 gasoline cost 71.5 thousand rubles and AI-95 80.43 thousand. Over the past day, the cost has grown by 1.33% and 2.2% respectively, and since the beginning of the year, the growth has amounted to 38% and 49%. To try to contain the rise in prices, the Russian government announced a complete ban on gasoline exports until the end of August, later extending it until the end of September. However, experts estimate that export volumes are too small to affect the market. Russia is again at risk of facing a fuel shortage. Since the beginning of August, 3 refineries have been shut down in the country. Rosneft's Novokubishevsk and Saratov refineries, as well as Lukoil's Volgograd refinery, the largest in southern Russia and one of the country's top 10. The combined capacity of these enterprises is 29.8 million tons per year, which is about 11% of the total refining volume. Last year, according to Reuters calculations, Russia processed 267 million tons of oil. In addition, Rosneft's largest asset, the Ryazan oil refinery, which supplied Moscow and the region among other places, lost half of its capacity. The Syzran, Slavyansk and Afipsky refineries also came under attack. Oil and gas market analyst Mikhail Krutikin explained that the rise in prices is explained not only by the shutdown of enterprises due to UAVs. We have very tricky prices for gasoline in the Russian Federation. 75% of the price is taxes. This is not the cost of oil, which is only about 7%. Not refining and not transportation. These are taxes. They are raised twice a year. So prices will continue to rise. Apparently, the export ban has somewhat curbed the growth of prices, but not dramatically. The main factor in the growth is the greed of the Russian government, the expert said. Thus, drone strikes on Russian oil refining have only accelerated the crisis processes, and structural problems in the economy and tax system are making the situation on the fuel market even more difficult.